Hello, my name is Nicholas Santello, and in this Office Mix video, we're going to be looking at communication within DHIS2. So this is the DHIS2 curriculum we've been developing here at Logical Outcomes, and it's based on the Academy workshops for DHIS2 you can see listed on the left-hand side of the screen. We are near the end of the curriculum now. We're in access and usability, and we're going to be looking at communication. So the required readings for this, it's a bit difficult to find the specific areas around communication because they're kind of internally within other chapters. So it'll be chapter 9.4, which is called Messages and Feedback. Also chapter 12.6, which is about the validation rule group. And chapter 5.5.2, which is sharing pivot tables. That's about interpretations. And that is going to be the same knowledge in terms of sharing GIS maps or sharing data visualizer. So here we are, internal messaging. This is what you see here at the top of my dashboard when I sign in or when I go to the dashboard app. And as you can see, this is where I'm going to access most of my the messaging functions, both being able to write them and being able to read them within DHIS2. So I can write feedback. The feedback is going to go to a very set user group. So that'll be set by the administrators, and the feedback will always go to the same people. We'll talk about that in a second. To share an interpretation, we're going to have to do that actually within the pivot table or the GIS or the data visualizer app, and clicking on share interpretation will remind you that. So to access the interpretations that exist, we're going to click on this button, or to access our messages, we'll be clicking here. And let's look at the messages system first. So this is what happens when you click on the messages button. You're going to come to this inbox. Now my inbox is at the moment empty, but this is what it will look like. And if you click on the Write Message blue button there, you'll see this window pop up. Now it'll actually be its own page, but I'm just popping it in here to save on some space. So what you can see is you'll be able to write to people within a specific org unit or specific users within that org unit, and then it just works like an email where you have a subject and the body of your text. So that's how the internal messaging works. It's important to note that this actually doesn't send emails, it just sends messages within the system, so people will have to sign in and check their messages. They won't be able to receive this from email. Sending feedback. So if I were to click on that send feedback button or write feedback button, then this is the window that'll pop up surrounded in black. And as you can see, I can't choose who I'm sending it to. I just have a subject and text. So that feedback will be going directly to the administrator of your instance, and that can be set only in the Settings app. And I'll show you how to do that in the next slide in a little video. So it's important that everyone knows where the feedback is going to when they log in, because it has to be preset and it's always going to go to the same people. But feedback is usually about things that are broken or something like that. But this is just something that you have to remind people when signing up in DHIS2 who's going to be reading it, where it's going to go to. But it's going to go to a predetermined user group. All right, so this is where we're going to look at how to change who receives feedback in DHIS2. So I'm in just the More Apps window. So this is all the apps that I have access to. And I'm just going to go down to the Settings app. And once I get into the Settings app, I will click on General Settings, and then I'll have the drop-down menu that I can choose where the feedback recipients, who they are. Now, I'm only going to have a list of the user groups as an option. So if I haven't created a user group, then I won't be able to choose anything at all. And I have to make sure that the user group is actually contains the users that I want to receive any feedback messaging. But that's where you're going to go. You're going to go into the Settings, and then into General Settings, and then down to Feedback Recipients. All right, so interpretations. So you can see at the bottom left of this screen with the black outline, that's the window that's going to pop up if you want to create a new interpretation. If you click on that link in your dashboard, and that just reminds you where to go. The main picture here on the right side is an example of one of the interpretations from the interpretation screen. But basically, interpretations are just notes that you can leave other people about your favorited, your newest saved graph, or your pivot tables, or your GIS maps. So an interpretation is how you can be creating and working on graphs, or even looking at how the data is being displayed and leave notes for your team or for other people. So this can be while you're developing a graph and whether it's the right thing or whether there's something missing or you have a question about it, or it can be an interpretation of the data and saying that, oh, look, something is really, in this case, the food poisoning bar here is much higher than everything else. We should now do something about that. So you can use interpretations however you want. And in the next slide, I'm going to walk you through how to create an interpretation and how to actually view it. All right, so this is a little look at the interpretation. So I'm just on my dashboard here. This is where I'll get to when I sign in, or of course I can go to the apps and click on dashboard. And I can either share an interpretation or look at the interpretations that already exist. Now, if I click on share interpretation, it's just going to remind me how I can do that, and we'll look at that in a second. But if I want to see the interpretations that already exist, I'll click on interpretations here. Now, it'll come up as a bit of a Facebook feed as one example, but it's just a list of the graph, the interpretation that someone had written, and then any comments that can be written, and those comments will continue down. And this is the only one that I have. The rest of them have to do with the training land instance as was set up by the people at DHIS2. So that's just an example of if I want to view the existing interpretations. If there are any interpretations that I haven't seen yet, it will come up in a red hyperlink right up here next to the right feedback, and it'll kind of have an exclamation mark and say a number of interpretations that are new. So let's go into how to make a new one. It's going to be the same whether it's pivot table, data visualizer, or GIS, but I'm just going to go into the data visualizer for now as for this example. And what you'll have to do with all of them is you can only share an interpretation on a saved, or as they call it in DHIS2, a favorited representation of your data. So I have one here, I believe. This is the test, and what I can do there is you go over to share, and then you click the right interpretation, and as you can see, you get a little dialog box. You can type anything you want. I'm just should probably not type gibberish, and it'll of course, and then you click the share button there, and it'll pop up in that interpretation window. So that's how you do it. If you've just created a new chart, I should say, or pivot table, what you have to make sure you do is you actually have to favorite it first. So you click on favorites and then you click add new, and when you create that, then you'll be allowed to leave an interpretation or share an interpretation, but not until you've done that favorite. So that's the video on interpretations. This is the last little bit of our look at communication. So the next slide is going to be a little quiz for you, and I'll let you go on to that. Alright, so you've just looked at communication internally within DHIS2, and now we are going to talk about, just briefly, the alerts. These are also a form of communication, but it's more automated within DHIS2. Now, within data validation, we already looked at data validation rules, minimum and maximum values, and you could see how when you enter something that's outside of the min or the max, or if it breaks a validation rule, you'll get an automatic alert. But there are ways to get alerts forwarded to user groups, and there are two different simple ways to do that, and we're going to look at those right now. So the first one is editing. You'll find within editing a data set, which is in the data set app, or when you create a data set. And that's going to be about complete notifications. So if the data set has been complete, you can choose to notify people. And with this drop-down menu, I will see a list of existing user groups. So I'll only be able to choose a user group to notify, but you might want to choose to notify a manager group or an admin group, and that's up to you. You can also choose to send a notification to the completing user, to the user who's actually just completed it, to let them know, yes, this has been completed, and it's just a yes or a no. So that is one place where you can choose to send this automated alerts. And the other one is within the data quality app, and that's about the data validation. So we're going to go there right now. Now, as I said before, you will automatically have notification within a data entry screen if you're breaking a validation rule. But when I go into my validation rule groups, which is where I collect, where I make a grouping of different validation rules, I can also create a notification once again to user groups. So I can alert, this is just at the bottom of this edit validation group screen. So I can alert user groups, one or multiple, if a validation rule group has been broken, which means either one or more validation rules. And I can choose to alert only organization unit related users. This is a good option if you're using a rule group or a rule for more than one org unit. And when things get very complicated, you don't want to tell people who aren't related to the rule breakage that there has been a rule breakage. It can be confusing. So those are the two ways to send automated alerts to users, specifically user groups, within DHIS2. All right, that's it for this video. So definitely there's a lot of ways to look at into communication within DHIS2, and you can keep the communication inside as opposed to using emails. Now, as some of you may be wondering, yes, there are ways to send notifications to people's emails or to send notifications through SMS to people's phones. We're not going to be, obviously we haven't looked at that in this video, but another video will be coming up soon. So, be patient on that one. But until then, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching.